Hello, cogitantes. The most common thing people say about A2 is that she is the discount 2B, the replacement protagonist you get handed in Route C when the game has already taken the character you actually cared about. But calling A2 the discount 2B is like looking at a building mid-demolition and saying, this is bad architecture. Think about this. What happens when a system creates a body, formally marks it for disposal, and then the body just refuses to disappear? This is A2. And to understand why, we need a Polish giant who taught at Warsaw and Leeds. In 2004, Zygmunt Bauman published Wasted Lives. Opening chapter, I want you to appreciate this. In the beginning was design, or the waste of order building. His argument inverts how we usually think about waste. We assume waste is what happens when a system fails, a glitch, an accident. Bauman says no. Waste is what a system produces in the act of functioning. Every time a system classifies bodies as useful, it draws a line, and everything that falls outside that line doesn't become worthless. It becomes, in Bauman's terms, the unplaceable reminder, something the system has no category for. Your old concert t-shirts after you decide to dress professionally, still perfectly good, just unplaceable. Yorha builds order, therefore Yorha produces waste. A2 is that waste. I want to use Bauman across 4 aesthetic points. Ready? Let's go. Number 1. In the beginning was design. Before there is waste, there is a design decision. Every system that produces order first decides what the ideal form looks like. Everything that doesn't fit that form is the reminder. So if you want to understand A2, you have to start with what the ideal form was. In 2016, before the game launched, GameWatch described A2 with one word, boro boro, in Japanese, worn out, tattered, falling apart. Not damage she acquires during the story, her original state. A2 is an attacker model, wanted by command as a deserter, survivor of the Pearl Harbor descent. She ships damaged. The damage is the design brief. Now look at the ideal form. Character modeler Hito Matsudaira explains that 2B became the production benchmark for the entire project. Proportions, shaders, rigs, he designed her around a fragile doll-like beauty. Subtle imperfections calibrated to make her more compelling without ever cracking the icon. 2B is what order produces when the design is working perfectly. Fragility is present but managed, hidden inside elegance. A2 takes that same fragility and puts it entirely on the outside. No benchmark to absorb it. Number 2. Order wraps itself. Bauman argues that order doesn't just produce forms, it produces the appearance of forms. The presentation that makes order look clean, natural, inevitable. The system doesn't only classify bodies, it dresses them. Joy Endry's wrapping culture and Yuriko Saito's Japanese aesthetics of packaging give this a precise cultural vocabulary. In Japanese practice, the exterior constructs the identity of what's inside. The wrap isn't decoration, it's how the system makes its claim on the word. And Yorha is a wrapping machine. The black uniform wraps android bodies in an institutional grammar. Soldier, loyal. The blindfold wraps sight. The slogan Glory to Mankind wraps mass android death in a sacred purpose. A2's uniform is shredded to the point where artificial skin is peeling away. Yorha's entire institutional wrap has, on her body, failed. But she's still here, which is, from the perspective of the system, extremely inconvenient. Number 3. Waste is not worthless. Here's the Bauman distinction that matters most for A2. He doesn't say waste is worthless. He says waste is unplaceable. The system has no category for it. The value is still there. The problem is the system can no longer absorb it. At this point, you might think, okay, so A2 is what in Japanese call kintsugi. Kintsugi is what happens when the system reclaims the broken object. It repairs with gold, aestheticizes the scar, makes the damage into ornament. A2 is something the system never reclaimed. She's Boro. Boro textiles are Japanese garments made between 18 and 50. Boro textiles are not restored. They are patched, layered, continued, stitch over stitch, generation after generation, until the object becomes a dense record of accumulated hues. And Boro doesn't make damage beautiful, it makes damage legible. The history piles up on the surface as evidence, not ornament. After Pearl Harbor, A2 was the sole unit to return alive. Yorha extracted what it's needed, her survival data, her personality, installed all of it into later E-type models, and then treated the surviving A2 herself as a fugitive to be handled by the Type E division. What you see on A2's body is exactly what the system considered remainder after taking everything useful. Not kintsugi, not reclaimed and made precious, the unplaceable body. Number 4. The unplaceable body sees what order cannot afford to see. Bauman's unplaceable body is dangerous not because it actively rebels, but because it exists outside the system's categories and sees from a position the system was never designed to account for. Yoko Taro said he asked Akihiko Yoshida for blindfolds and black clothing, and the final design leaves A2's eyes uncovered, which means that inside Yorha visual grammar, the blindfold aestheticizes the restriction of sight. It makes artificial blindness look refined, heroic, a mark of a soldier. The system makes not seeing look like a virtue. A2's open eyes rupture that completely. Before she says a word, her uncovered gaze reads as threatening because she's visually unsealed, carrying a line of sight the system was architecturally designed to prevent. And this is where A2 connects to a longer lineage. Classic mecha has no visual vocabulary for the remainder body. The robot gets replaced. Evangelion breaks this. The design revelation is that organisms are trapped inside the armor, and the machine aesthetic was always a wrapping. Madoka Magica does the same. The witch is not the magical girl's opposite, she's her reminder. Same body after the system extracted everything it needed. A2 is the next step, not trapped, just discarded, present and looking. And in ending C, near death, she says, I never quite realized how beautiful this world is. That line lands because her eyes have been open the whole time. The cost of seeing without a blindfold arrives in a sentence. The unplaceable body, it turns out, sees further than the system ever intended. Now, NieR Automata was made in Japan, and in 2022, Japan generated 21.2 kilograms of e-waste per capita, with only 23% formally collected as e-waste. New models become the benchmark, and older devices get classified as waste, while many still remain technically usable. And there is a difference between being useless and being declared useless. A2 is that difference. The same mechanism applies in Japan's employment Ice Age cohort. An entire generation accumulated real skills in non-regular positions, their labor was extracted, their existence was denied a permanent category. Yoko Taro didn't design A2 from sociology papers, nobody does that, but artists breathe the culture around them. The society of meticulous surface presentation, an economy shaped by rapid product cycles, a labor market with a brutal line between insiders and permanent outsiders. A2 is what that culture looks like when it makes a character and accidentally tells the truth about itself. So, A2 is not the discount to be, and Bauman's framework explains why she exists after all. Because every system that builds order builds remainder, and A2 is the remainder Yorha couldn't finish off. She doesn't become a person because the system redeems her. She becomes a person because the old purpose stops being enough to explain her. She carries 2B's sword and the memory of people who didn't come back. She protects Pascal's village when she has no institutional reason to care. She destroys the tower not on command, but because she asked herself who has the right to destroy futures. And then at the end, with the world coming down around her, she looks up and realizes it's beautiful. It's not a small thing. That's a body that was declared waste arriving at wonder. And I think that says something genuinely hopeful about what becomes possible when a system's definition of you finally runs out of room to contain you. Happy thinking.